Bryan Danielson, I appreciate you making time to join Quinn's Afternoon Army.
Yep, absolutely.
Tonight, can't wait for it. Rampage with the Buy-In pre-show now at 9 p.m., headlined by you and wrestling legend Minoru Suzuki. Before we get there, I don't know if you know or not, Daytona Beach this weekend, it is Biketoberfest weekend, so I do need to ask you, do you now or have you ever owned any type of motorcycle?
No, you know what? Actually, that's a lie.
Okay.
If you consider like mopeds,
okay,
are those considered motorcycles?
Look, we're on the beach, dude. Come on now, you can take a moped down the beach. Absolutely, during Biketoberfest, you could do that.
Okay, yeah, and so yeah, we briefly owned a moped.
Okay.
That was given to us, and then we were like, we just never used it. Although I have frequently used electric bicycles, so that may count.
You know what? E-bikes are good, too. Look, I'm not surprised for the man who was once known as the planet's champion. I wanted to ask you, what were your first memories of professional wrestling as a child? When you're going against someone like Minoru Suzuki, what a legend. But when you first discovered it as a kid, what are your first memories?
So I was really sick as a child. So like I missed a lot of school and all that kind of stuff. One of my friends came over and he had something in his backpack, and he was like, listen, I have something in my backpack that I want to show you, but you have to promise not to tell anybody. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And he pulls out these magazines, right? Now, what would you expect, a little boy? What kind of magazines would you expect those to be?
The same kind that I
Obviously,
got thrown across the front yard when I tried sneaking them out of the house, but no, they were wrestling magazines, not mine. Yours were, not mine.
Yeah, they were wrestling magazines. And you know what? I was just because I was sick so much, he let me keep a couple of the magazines.
Uh-huh.
And I was an avid reader from a young age. And I just became enthralled. My parents were wrestling fans. I became enthralled with the pictures and the stories in the magazines and like these larger than life characters. And then like, we didn't have very much money growing up, but my mom and dad, they took me to a wrestling show because they saw how much I liked it. They would get me, occasionally the wrestling magazines. And that's really how I fell in love as a child, is just like I would get immersed in this world of these like amazing, fantastical characters, and you have to think this is the 80s with like the Road Warriors and like, all that kind of stuff, guys in face paint, huge muscled up guys in face paint and all that kind of stuff. And so it was a pretty magical time.
I can totally relate to that. As a kid who grew up in central Pennsylvania, people don't understand how removed that is from really anywhere. And going to the newsstand, the magazines, the Great Kabuki was the first memories that I have. And you talk about the face paint and Gary Hart and just being terrified as a kid, but knowing that it's a show, almost like the Universal movie Monsters, where you were just enthralled with those characters and you wanted to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. And then, it's like, then you get deeper in, and the deeper you get in, the more there is, right? And then you discover as you grow out of that stage where you're like, oh, face painted muscle guys are really cool.
Right.
And then you want something more substantial. Then you're like, whoa, here's some people who are just incredible wrestlers and just doing, amazing, entertaining feats of physicality, right? And so then I became enthralled with that and the more technical wrestlers and stuff like that, and that's kind of what led to my love of professional wrestling.
Well, then you go into the Malenkos and people like that, and you can see it in your style of wrestling. Now, I'm a few years older than you. I can remember first hearing about Bryan Danielson, going to work at Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy in Texas, this young American Dragon. Did you know back then that people were already beginning to talk about you?
Well, so I would get exposure a little bit here and there in like the pro wrestling magazines, which was really cool for me as a fan of those magazines. And so you would see that, but it was really just a blip on the radar in pro wrestling, and lots of people get little blips or whatever it is. But I was honestly never really focused on that. I wasn't I was focusing on learning the skills of professional wrestling more than anything else, and not too worried about like making a big name for myself right out of the gate. But you focus on the work, and you get some good opportunities, and people start to know who you are. From like, it's pretty crazy when I look back on it. Like my first major breakthrough was in 2001, and I was only 20 years old at the time.
Sure.
So I had a lot of success early, which was nice.
Bryan Danielson tonight headlining the buy-in for Rampage preview, James L. Knight Center, live from Miami. Now, you talk about the journey through the Indies, guys that you met along the way, people that really later, I think, play a pivotal role in development on you, say, an international stage. People like a guy, Tyler Black, later Seth Rollins, CM Punk, all these, many more. Was there this awareness along the way that you, with these guys, certain group of people, that you were creating something different?
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. It just felt like I was just pursuing whatever interested me in the realm of wrestling. Right.
Uh-huh.
There's another wrestler who was very influential to me. His name is Loki. He still wrestles.
Sure.
And but he and I would wrestle each other, and it felt really like a fight, right? And he was incorporating a lot of his martial arts stuff. I was incorporating a lot of my grappling stuff, and and that sort of thing. And then we were both students of the game and studying wrestling and all that kind of stuff. And it really felt like we were just pursuing what we were interested in, which ends up being an evolution of wrestling, right? And so, but I think that's what it is, and it's not just me; it's all of these people pursuing the kind of wrestling that interests them, because realistically, wrestling has changed a lot in the last 20 years, and fans have changed a lot in the last 20 years. And so that's why I'm always interested in wrestling younger guys to see their takes on wrestling, because like Darby Allin, who's 24 years old, he's going to have a different take on wrestling than I do at 40, right? Because he grew up with different wrestling, and what he wants from wrestling is different. And I think that's an exciting thing about AEW, is that there's a mix of veteran wrestlers like me, but then a lot of young, exciting wrestlers that the fans are really getting behind. And I think that's what's pushing the AEW style forward and modernizing it.
Well, you go and you talk about being from that independent wrestler, strong wrestler, to one of the most compelling characters that an audience connected with, international level, based on a few simple words. Was that your psychology? Did you think I can connect with the audience based on just a few of the most common words around the world?
Well, so I do think that that there's something to keeping it simple on a national scale, and especially with WWE, there was like a younger audience and that sort of thing. But I also think that the reason why I was able to connect with so many people also comes from a deeper level of people looking behind the curtain a little bit, which is what happens with modern wrestling fans, right? And to see that part of my struggle was real.
Right.
They were getting behind me, the fans were getting behind me, but the company wasn't necessarily as fully behind me as the fans were, right?
Right.
And that pushed them to push for me more, right? And that got them more invested. Like, hey, we've got somebody that we want to push, that we want to fight for, and that sort of thing. And and I think that was really special too. And having a simple thing to say to vocalize your discontent, or to vocalize the person that you want to push for, really helps a lot.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I heard you talk about how hard the decision was for you when you made the choice to join AEW. You were a free agent, you had multiple offers, but AEW came to you while you were still employed by WWE. You first heard about the company and the players involved. Did you think at the time, hey, WWE better watch their back, or was it you watched it evolve here over the past couple of years? I was able to attend Fyter Fest, one of their first events, saw it at first, and have watched them just progressively get better.
Yeah, so I always watch other pro wrestling, right? Like, I like to see what other companies are doing and that sort of thing. So when AEW came on the scene, I was definitely interested to see how they would present it, right? And how they would present wrestling. And so I watched it. I was excited by it. I saw that they were doing some good things, and then it just kept getting better. And I think they started learning. Tony Khan, who runs AEW, he started learning on the job.
Somewhere along the line, they shifted into the right gear, and it's gotten just smoother since you can't, there's not a pinpoint, you know what I mean? But just somewhere along the line, they shifted into the right gear, and man, it's hitting on all cylinders. And obviously there's a benefit where I think there's a lot of discontent with a product that has been slowly decaying, let's say, over a few years, that has been dominant. Now you have the ability to be working for a company that allows some of the most creative freedom the industry has seen in decades. What have we not seen yet from Bryan Danielson?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that you haven't seen yet because my skill set is pretty vast,
right?
And that's,
right.
I'm trying to be a little humble about that. And then, but there's a lot of things that when you're, one of the things John Cena would say sometimes, when you go to see Guns N' Roses, you want to see him play the hits,
sure,
right? But I want to be a little bit more like Bob Dylan. And when you go to a Bob Dylan show, you don't know what he's going to play, right? sometimes you're disappointed, but I think most of the times when you go to see a Bob Dylan show, you're there to see, man, what's Bob Dylan going to play for us tonight?
He has a big catalog. What's he going to pull out tonight? Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm very excited about is that idea that WWE has a very certain style.
Yeah.
And you can go outside of that style. Tonight I'm wrestling Minoru Suzuki.
Exactly.
And that's probably going to be unlike any match that you've ever seen me have in WWE because he wrestles so physical. I'm going to be wrestling so physical. Like it's just going to be a super physical matchup. And so that's and he wrestles a style that's unlike anybody in WWE, so it's like, and that kind of thing is exciting to me. So yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the physicality and the excitement.
Well, I know one thing you talk about connecting on that deeper level, the thing that is always evident with you when you are truly getting fired up. It's not the Hulk Hogan turnaround, you fired up. There's a genuine fire in Bryan Danielson. When you see that switch turn, and the speed, the impact. I am so excited about your match tonight and what comes to the future. AEW Rampage, by the way, such a great name. Instantly reminds me of the old video game and just another smart move by Tony Khan.
Yeah, and so it's he's made a lot of smart moves, and when a lot of people doubted him. So Tony's I don't know. In talking with Tony, he's I don't want to say he's not just a really smart guy. He's a genius. You know what I mean? And so like his the way that he thinks about wrestling, he thinks about it really in depth and that sort of thing. A lot of people think of Tony as like, let's go, and like he is like that, but
sure.
He's also like, when he's thinking about putting together these wrestling shows, he's thinking about what do pro wrestling fans want? What do I want as a pro wrestling fan? And Rampage, one is like you said, is a great name, but two, it's just an exciting show as well.
Absolutely. Bryan Danielson, excited to see you tonight. Live YouTube pre-show headline, Minoru Suzuki, New Japan Wrestling legend. Thank you so much for making time. Welcome back in the afternoon army anytime, but you got to bring the moped. Find it somewhere. I don't know if you gave away or whatever, but you got to find it, dude.
Yep, for sure. I'll find the moped somewhere.
All right. We'll be waiting for you on the beach. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye.